Let go your earthly tether. Let go and become wind. There is a moment just before freedom where everything you thought you needed must die. Your comfort, your name, your gravity. That moment is called the void. And Zaheer didn't fear it. He entered it. Not as a villain, not as a madman, but as a man who had seen the truth behind the walls of the world. The White Lotus called him a radical. The Avatar called him dangerous. But Zaheer called himself something else. Unchained. Because real power isn't found in control. Real power is found in letting go. And to let go of the earth is to let go of identity. To let go of fear. To let go of the illusion that you need anything to be whole. Zaheer whispered, "Instinct is a lie, told by a fearful body, hoping to be wrong. You have been trained to obey your instincts, to cling, to grasp, to fight gravity, not just with your feet, but with your soul." But Zaheer saw gravity for what it really was, an anchor, a law that governed men, but not those who transcended themselves. And so he trained, he studied, he meditated, he waited, not to rise, but to vanish. Because the man who floats is not the man who leaps. It is the man who no longer needs the ground. That's the price of the void, and that's why few ever enter it. Because most men want power without detachment. They want control without sacrifice. They want heaven, but with chains around their ankles. Zaheer did not want heaven. He wanted air. He said, "When you base your expectations only on what you see, you blind yourself to the possibilities of a new reality." He was not a dreamer. He was a destroyer of illusions, and he saw the world for what it was, a prison. One with guards called nations, wardened by kings, policed by traditions. And so he took a breath, not of rebellion, of clarity. And with that breath, he became what few ever do, weightless. He rose not just in body, he rose in essence. Because to enter the void is to become empty of what is false, to empty yourself of legacy, of revenge, of want. Only then, when nothing remains, can the wind carry you. That was Zaheer's lesson, and it is your invitation. Not to become him, but to question the ground you stand on. Who told you gravity was law? Who told you anger was loyalty? Who told you freedom must look like order? Enter the void, not to disappear, but to see. Because in the void, the only law is breath, and the only path is up. Zaheer did not stumble into enlightenment. He earned it. And unlike the Avatar, who was born into power, Zaheer had to steal his enlightenment from silence. The Avatar is burdened by balance, by legacy, by the responsibility to restore order. Zaheer saw that order was the illusion. The Avatar walks the line between chaos and harmony, believing the two must coexist. Zaheer stepped over the line. He believed harmony only comes when all false structures collapse. The Avatar learns to master all four elements. Zaheer mastered one, air. And in mastering air, he discovered what many with all four never do. That freedom is not a tool. It is the entire truth. While the Avatar seeks connection to the past, Zaheer sought disconnection from all that weighs. While the Avatar listens to former lives, Zaheer listens to no one, because the void has no echoes. And yet, both seek peace, but their paths could not be more different. And still, he breathed. He taught himself to listen to the silence between storms, to hear the air speak, and when the moment came, when the world tried to destroy him, he whispered one truth. Let go your earthly tether. Let go and become wind. But how many can truly do this? A monk in Zaofu tried once. He trained for years in solitude, fasting, reading, meditating. When the moment came, when the pressure rose and his family was threatened, he clung, not to his body, but to identity, to the fear of losing what he had built. He could not let go. He could not fly. Another, a general-turned-wanderer, begged to enter the void. He gave up his sword, his rank, his name, but not his hatred. And hatred is gravity in disguise. It pulls you back into the war, back into the self. He never rose. And then there was the boy. A boy who had nothing, no kingdom, no army, no past. And yet, everything weighed on him. What he might become, who he might protect. He studied Zaheer's words. He even chanted them. But in the silence of his heart, he still longed to be seen, and the void does not carry those who want to be admired. Zaheer saw this, and he never judged, because he knew the path. He had stumbled himself. Long before the levitation came, Zaheer had gripped too tightly to his mission. He had mistaken vengeance for virtue. He had loved, and that love had become his weight. But when Pili died, when the final bond broke, he did not scream. He inhaled, he whispered, he rose. Because at last, he had nothing to lose. That is the essence of the void. Not a technique, not a skill, but a state. Only when nothing in you wants to hold on can the air itself lift you. Let go your earthly tether. Let go and become wind, not as a power, as a principle, not as an escape, as a homecoming. Let go and become what cannot be touched. He spoke this not as metaphor, but as instruction. Let go your pain, let go your title, let go your vengeance, let go your expectations. Because every weight you carry is another link in the chain, and many mistake feathers for wings when they are just illusions stitched to their back. They are lifted briefly by admiration, by applause, by the sense of righteousness. But the higher they climb on borrowed wind, the harder they fall when reality returns. One leader was adored as a liberator. He mistook devotion for flight. But when the people changed, when power shifted, he fell, and no air caught him. Another man was lifted by legacy. His father's name, his clan's honor, the stories he believed made him special. But none of it was real lift. It was all weight masquerading as purpose. The wind does not care for symbols. It will not carry a man wearing chains of gold. That's what Zaheer understood. True lightness comes not from being raised up, but from dropping everything down. And the wind does not carry chains. He realized that the more you try to rule the world, the less you rule yourself. That the more you grasp, the harder it is to rise. That's why he told the Avatar, true freedom is spiritual, not political, not institutional, but internal. Most men seek to break the world. He sought to release it. And in that release, he found levitation, not just of the body, but of the mind, of the soul. When Pili fell, the world expected rage, but Zaheer gave them ascension. Because to enter the void is to let death itself pass through you without resistance. That is the breath of liberation, not holding, not grasping, but becoming. Become wind. Become absence. Become the whisper that cannot be caught. And in that state, you will see, freedom does not destroy. It reveals. You were never meant to live chained. You were meant to float, to cut through the illusions like air through smoke. Picture it, a temple high in the mountains, built by generations who believed structure was salvation. A sacred place, carved in marble, reinforced by duty, expectation, pride. And then one night, quiet, windless, still, it begins to shake. Not from force, but from within, because it was never built to rise, only to endure. One by one, the columns crack, the walls split, the roof begins to bow under the weight of its own legacy, and in the center stands a single figure, not with fear, but with breath. He does not run, he does not resist, he inhales, he releases. And as the temple collapses into dust, he rises through the debris, untouched, because he had no stone in that structure. He had no tether in its foundation. This is the void, not an escape, but an emergence. You are not here to carry the temple. You are here to become the wind that moves through it. Let go your earthly tether. Let go and become wind. There is a silence beyond silence, a kind of stillness that doesn't come from retreat, but from returning to something deeper than thought. Zaheer heard it once, not in a cave, not in meditation, but in the sound of a falling stone striking water and not rippling. That was the void. Not a lack of noise, not peace, but unbreaking. Where most men bend to survive, he unbent to rise. He had watched leaders crumble under praise. He had watched warriors tremble beneath legacy. He had watched himself, once, fail to hear the wind because his rage was louder. He remembered the day it changed. The air was thick, humid, heavy with consequence. Plea had warned him, there is no clarity in fury. But he didn't listen. He struck, he burned, he won. And then he sat. He listened, and he heard nothing. Victory didn't sing. It echoed hollow. Because true power doesn't explode. It evaporates what doesn't matter. That was when Zaheer stopped being a rebel and started becoming the wind. He wrote in dust, "The loudest power is the one that moves unseen." He began observing others, not to defeat them, but to understand their tethers. A king who wore his crown like a chain. A prophet who feared silence more than death. A mother who taught her son to love rules more than truth. And Zaheer, he let them go. Not in hate, in mercy. Because in the void, you stop fighting illusions. You simply no longer believe in them. He told a young airbender once, "Don't master the currents, become the absence they bend around." To enter the void is not to vanish. It is to become ungraspable. No guilt can root in you. No flattery can attach. No death can threaten. Only then do you hear it. The sound. The unbreaking. It is the sound a soul makes when it is no longer shaped by fear. It is the breath before flight. It is the whisper before peace. It is the moment when you realize you were never falling. You were just remembering how to float. Let go your earthly tether. Let go and become wind.